This video will be a series of videos, a pretty long series. It is a message that has been growing with me for a while that eventually I do need to share, and I've gotten to a place where I feel like I'm safer to be more vulnerable and open about my time in a religious cult, and how that was, how that played a part in my awakening. And I just wanted this first episode in the series of just laying the foundations of what I was going through and what my intentions were and how I interpreted my reality at the time. And that way there's no misinterpretations of or stigmas around the idea of being in a cult and a religious cult and stuff like that. Alright, so I need to relax a bit because it's a lot, and I'm used to talking about this sort of anonymously, and it's just a different stress to make a video on it. Anyway, I was 13 years old when I was converted into a religious cult known as Mormonism. And there's many misconceptions about what that is and stuff, so I'll explain it a little bit. So there's the fundamental Mormons, and then there are the Reformed Mormons, and I'm not sure which one I'm in, because I know I'm not in either one of those, but I guess I'm in the middle, and I don't know if that's considered mainstream Mormonism or something, but there's some varieties of that. But the religion itself does not like to be called Mormons. They like to be called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I don't want to really put the title, the religion in the title of this video, because I don't want to attract certain kinds of people. I just want this to really be about, it's not about a specific religion, or it's not about it's not anger or malice or anything like that for me. I'm not intending to hurt anyone or offend anyone in a religious sense. But it's really about that this applies to everything. And those who, have the eyes to see can really see that this is not just religion, and this is not just, a bad experience. It's not just because I was young. It's not just because of any of these things. It's actually way more than that and way deeper than that. And I don't want to sound dramatic when I say this, but it's like no one is safe. And the crazy part of it is that you just don't know. You just don't know when you don't know. And it's not the things that you do see, it's the things that you don't see, or the things that are going to get you. Anyway, so I was 13 years old, and just this opportunity came to my family when some missionaries, young missionaries in Mormonism, the missionaries are 18 years old. And I was 13 at the time, and I had known that my dad was Mormon, but it wasn't really a big part of my family. My family wasn't really religious. If you look around my house or anything, there really isn't anything to indicate that we're religious people, and we didn't really grow up entirely religious. However, there was, I guess you could say, a seed planted when I was young about just having a basic belief in God. And at the time I was 13, life was life was pretty hard. And I kind of already had a little bit of a belief in God, but it wasn't really a big deal. It was something, every once in a while when things got really difficult, I might pray, once in a while, but it wasn't, it was just me, sincere, not like repeating a prayer or anything like that. And I didn't really like praying, because it just felt weird, and I didn't like going to church as a young kid, because it was creepy. It was creepy to me. The big buildings and the statues and the art were a bit strange to me. And I mainly got this basic programming from my grandmother on my mother's side, who was Catholic. And she had passed way before my conversion. And my mom and my dad are not on the same level religiously, but for some reason my mom had allowed them to come into our home and to teach us as young kids. And I have some siblings as well, and I'm pretty sure I was the only one who really took it seriously. And my intentions as a young kid, I'm 13 years old, I kind of already know, like, I'm not really specifically religious, but I don't really have much of a religious ego or an identity, right? But I knew at 13 that if I was going to believe anything, it was because it was meaningful to me and it meant something to me, and not because so-and-so said so, not because my dad said so or my family said so or this and that said so. Like, I wanted to believe in something that was meaningful to me, that was right to me, because like, I'm young and I didn't really think about religion, but when I would, it was interesting how, like, there were so many people thinking about many different ways of religion and things like that. And I'm just kind of thinking, like, well, how do they actually know? How do they actually know, that's the religion that they want, or that their way is the right way, right? Or things like that. And, religion just wasn't a big part of my life growing up, and I was very sheltered. And I didn't really meet friends or have friends, or let alone like friends that had a different religious upbringing, right? But anyway, my intentions was to just listen and be open-minded and to give this a shot. And the missionaries had told me that, hey, don't take our word for it, that our religion is the true religion, but I'm going to teach you how. I'm going to show you how to speak with God. I'm going to show you that God answers prayers. I'm going to show you, for yourself, that you can have what we have. You can know the truth the way we do. You can talk to God the way that we do, and you can know that this religion is the true church the way that we do, right? And I guess I was like a bit naive, but like, hey, I was willing to, and I was kind of sort of interested in, maybe I could actually have something to do with God. Maybe I could actually, bring more divinity into my life. I felt like life was really difficult, and so, I mean, why not, right? I feel like it could be helpful. And on the surface level, it seemed like it was a good idea, or it might have been something that seemed nice to have, not just a belief, but like a community and a church, right? And they told me, this is what they told me. They said, well, if you want God to answer your prayer, like, you have to be sincere, and you have to do what we tell you to do. And this is how you're supposed to eat. This is how you're supposed to dress. This is what you're supposed to say. This is how you're going to spend your time. This is what you need to do to get closer to God. And you just basically need to be like as holy as possible. Basically, like, show an act of faith. Show that you're willing to try. Show that you're willing to learn. And God would recognize that, right? And I did everything that they said, right? and which was weird because usually people would only do that unless they believe in it, but I was willing to do things I did not entirely agree with or understand, but they told me that if I did, then that would be me showing faith or something like that, right? So I read their holy books. Was reading them. I never finished any of them, by the way. And they were teaching me their rules and stuff, and they had their own way of teaching the youth, because at the time I was a youth. I was 13 years old, and they talked to me a bit about the church's history. They talked to me about how this came to be, and I don't really want to go too much into the history of it because it's a lot to explain, and it's bizarre. But regardless, I was like a very clean blank slate in a way, but I was also very open and very vulnerable, and I wouldn't say that they took advantage of me, because like they didn't. Like, I had my own choice. I made my own decisions. I wasn't forced to. There wasn't any pressure for me to participate if I didn't want to. I want to make that clear. I was not forced into this. This was my own choice, right? And of course, I mean, how much of a choice do you have at 13 years old anyway? Like, honestly, like, you don't know much at 13, right? But anyway, that was unique to me, because many people assume that like I was pressured or I was roped into it or that I was born into it, and I was not. Okay. So one day, as I was going through their lessons, and they have a certain amount of lessons that they teach their members, and they they make sure that they are teaching whoever it is that they're converting, that they actually know, that they actually are taught, and that way no one gets converted without being unaware of what the beliefs are, things like that. They just have like a little checklist to see, right? And it was almost time. It was almost time to get converted if we had wanted to, right? But before then, I was like, I'm not gonna convert, if like this doesn't make sense to me, like, or if it doesn't, if I don't have any kind of experience or meaning, like, I'm not going to convert to that, right? But I'm still willing to try and keep an open mind and to be sincere, and my intention was that, well, if this was real, and if this was true, then I would love to share it with everyone else. Then I would love to show everyone else that they could also have a connection with divinity, that they could also have a way of knowing how to live life, that they could have a way where, they don't have to be alone, and that they can have divine help if they wanted to. And that was only if it had succeed. And so I had an experience. One time I was in my bedroom, and the missionary said, well, hey, you could pray and ask God. And I forgot what the question was exactly. I don't know if it was if the church was true, or if it was the Book of Mormon was true. And the Book of Mormon is their own holy book that they have, and they have some other holy books as well. I personally wouldn't call them holy books, so of course that's like way after the fact. If my experience with that, and I can't remember if it was asking if the Book of Mormon was true, if it was the church was true, but either way, whichever one, if the answer was yes to any of them, that would have at the time made me feel like, okay, yeah, I guess if the Book of Mormon is true, maybe these guys are true. But at the time, I didn't even recognize or realize that there could be branches off of this religion in the first place. So like other religions could believe in the same Book of Mormon too. So that doesn't necessarily mean that the Book of Mormon, is true, therefore the religion is true, right? So, but anyway, I was in prayer, and prayer was really uncomfortable for me. I didn't like praying. I don't know if anyone can relate to that. And yeah, so I was on my knees and I was beside my bed and I was praying and I was asking God, I'm not sure which question it was. I think it was if the Book of Mormon was true. I'm like maybe 80% sure that that was the question. And I didn't know what to expect. Like they didn't tell me what would happen. They just said, oh, God will answer you, or God listens to you, or something like that. And that God would show you. So they did not actually tell me what would happen. Like I had no expectation. I was just going to do it because, I was just sincere and I wanted to try this. Right. And my intentions were pure and I was sincere. And I was also very young. And I was willing to believe, even if it was temporary, willing to believe, but I was really, really wanting to put it to the test. Right. This was before there was any, fear, indoctrinations, put into me because I was really young and nothing bad had happened to me yet as far as, religious abuse and things like that. So I had I had a willingness to believe. I had a sincerity. I had pure intent. And the missionaries had taught me that after every prayer, before we end the prayer, that we express our gratitude to God and say what we're grateful for. And so, yes, I was also grateful, too. I was also expressing gratitude. And the missionaries had also told me what God looked like. And they told me that their interpretation of God, that God looked like a man, not an alien, not like an omniscient cloud of information. It's not like God's like invisible or God's in the clouds, but like God is human like us. That was the thing that they taught me. And I want to make this clear because this is very important. At the time, I did not recognize divinity within us. I did not recognize, non-duality. I did not recognize spirituality. I did not recognize manifestation at 13 years old, right? And it wasn't until later that I got into magic and understanding occult and manifestation spirituality in the way that that was right for me, which was a very intense process of me getting to that point, but that comes later in the series when I explain more of that, what's going on there. And because it's a lot, and I don't want anyone to misinterpret or like think that they know what my experience was like, because I'm telling you, you do not know what my experience was like. You cannot make assumptions because you don't really know. I don't know anyone else who's had an experience like as unique as mine. Okay? So please be open. So after I had asked my prayer to God, and I had faith, I had gratitude, and I had visualization, because I'm imagining myself talking to God. I'm saying my gratitude at the end of the prayer, and I had belief, and I was sincere. These are the three things that, when they come together in just the right way, you can make things manifest. And I didn't know this at the time. So when I had said that, and I was just sitting there, and it was just really quiet, then I got this feeling in my heart. I got this feeling in my heart that was a good feeling, a positive feeling, and it was unlike a feeling I've ever felt before. And I didn't know how to interpret this at the time. I just assumed, well, if it feels good, does this mean it's a yes? Or maybe it's just a good feeling? Or I don't know, right? And I didn't know much at 13, obviously. Didn't know the difference, that there's a difference between the experience and the interpretation of the experience. There's a difference between the facts and the interpretation of the facts. This was the facts of my reality. This was the experience of my reality at the time. And so I was curious, and I was like, I don't know what this means. Maybe this is a yes, but I don't know. And so the missionaries told me, okay, something would happen, right? They didn't tell me what would happen. And so the next time they came over for a session to teach us, I told them, hey, this is what happened to me, right? And they showed me two scriptures. I think one of them was in the Book of Mormon and one of them was in the Bible. And it was basically describing the experience that I had. I had not known about this. I never read that far into their holy books. I didn't really read the Bible, honestly. So like this was something completely not, this was not my wishful thinking. This was not my imagination. This was not any of that. Which was very confusing. Even to this day, I kind of understand at least the manifestation aspect of it, but it still makes me think sometimes, because I feel like even though I got to the point where I am now, it still feels a bit mysterious to me somehow. And that's when I realized that I had a mystical experience. That's when I realized I had a meaningful experience. And ever since then, at the time, I wanted to get baptized. I wanted to be converted, and I wanted to be the best I could possibly be. And I wanted to follow Christ, and I wanted to teach other people, and I wanted to help other people, and I just wanted good things. That was my intention at 13 years old. That's all I really wanted, was for other people to have their connection to divinity. And that they could know that God was real. At least this was at the time when, I believed in a more egotistical version of God, because that's just what my consciousness was able to handle at the time, I suppose. I don't know. Real consciousness is hard to find. It's hard to get there, but I eventually did figure it out, which will be another episode in this series of how things happened. And that was it. And looking back, I guess my mystical experience just kind of made me not question things as much. It didn't really allow me to think about things as much, because at the time I was like, well, hey, I already know the truth. At least that's what they told me what the truth was. It's easy to believe that you know the truth when you have limiting beliefs of what the truth already is to begin with. I think that's something people don't recognize, because everyone has their own versions of truth, but people don't hardly ever explore their own limitations of what the truth is or what it looks like for them. And I don't think many people have ever seen it that way, that it is possible that there are limiting beliefs about truth. Anyway, this led me down a very dark path over time. Everything was good for about maybe a year. But when shit hit the fan, it hit the fan very hard. All the indoctrination was very strong in me because of how open and willing I was to receive. And because I really cared. And because I really, really fucking tried. And no one could tell me that I wasn't enough, but I believed that I wasn't enough. I believed that I wasn't doing enough, that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't worthy enough, that all these things eventually. But that was after shit hit the fan, and I had another experience before shit hit the fan. Growing up, I was very lonely and bullied a lot in school, and I didn't have a good relationship with my family, and my family fought a lot. And it hurt. And I get triggered. I would get triggered all the time at 13 years old. because I see other people have friends, and I'm wondering why I can't have any. Or I play my video games, and my main character I'm playing, he has friends wherever he goes. And I did kind of have one friend, but she kind of betrayed me. And I had another friend, but I couldn't be friends with him because I was bullied, and like we just were like out of each other's league, and I just couldn't hang out with him. And people didn't want me with him, and stuff like that, and it really hurt me because it was unfair. But he was the only one who was nice to me when all that was going down, and it just felt so unfair, and like I didn't deserve it. And I was like really, really lonely, not just like friends, but like also my family, but also myself, from within myself, because the bullying really hurt my ability to express myself a lot. It made it hard for me to make connections because I was like scared of everyone, and I was even more hurt by the people who let it happen. And that made me feel like no one cared about me and stuff. And so that time I prayed, and a miracle happened, a mystical experience happened, and I was like, I think, asking God for help or something. And there was something in the religion that we were taught, at least in this interpretation of the religion I was in. To give you some background, they claim to be Christian. They're not really Christian, though. And many Mormons do not actually believe in the real doctrines of what they believe. They only tell people the surface level stuff that they know most people would kind of sort of agree with. But the real doctrines is not something that you figure out until you've been in the church long enough. It's almost a bit like an initiation. Right? They don't tell people the higher truths, and even the missionaries don't even have access to that knowledge either. They're only taught to tell people things that would convert people, right? They just don't, they may not be aware of it or something. But there was something in the scripture that not only did Christ, according to them, not only did Christ like suffer our sins, but he also suffered every pain imaginable, which was also the pain that I've had, the pain of loneliness. And they told me that that was like something I could use to help me, that God in Christ would help to heal me, and to be there for me, and to give me comfort, right? That was what the Holy Ghost could do, or what prayer could do, right? And this was before shit hit the fan, and when I had done that, all the pain was gone. Of course, the feelings don't go away forever because I still feel pain, right? But it was just gone immediately, and that was special to me at the time. But then after shit hit the fan, things did not feel the same. And I had not realized why, like, I wouldn't get these experiences anymore. And I had realized that in the consciousness abuse of the religion, they have to tear down who you really are so you can be more like them. And they have all kinds of manipulation and stuff like that, but I'll get more into that later. But I didn't find out until way later why whenever I was sad again, why couldn't I pray, and why couldn't it help me again? Like, that was only one time. Why didn't it help me later? Of course, there were many reasons why, but I had made the connection way after the fact. This all happened. I'm 23. I'm 23 now. This happened to me when I was like 13. they had destroyed my sense of self-worth. And because I did not believe I was worthy and I did not believe I was good enough, that played a role in sabotaging the manifestation from happening. I didn't realize that at the time. And so when that would happen and I wouldn't feel good again, or I wouldn't feel that connection to God or divinity, or it was so confusing. I was like, why isn't God helping me? Why did he help me that one time? Why did he, give me an answer that one time? But then not now. Like, what the heck? Like, I need it. Like, hello? Right? And I didn't know how to interpret that other than that, okay, I guess God just wants me to figure it out myself. That's what I assumed. But I wasn't mad or vengeful or anything. I just gave the benefit of the doubt. Well, maybe God just wants me to figure it out. I don't know. But I figured it out. But it was the divinity within me that figured it out. And not a separated and divided belief in divinity, not an egotistical version of God or Christ or anything like that. It was because I had put myself together, and that's another story of my awakening. I just wanted this first video to just lay the foundation for how things happened, and looking back on it, I still want the same thing. I still have the same desire that I had at 13 years old, to be close to God. And to do good and to spread good, and that other people can have this too, and that I could help other people have the same thing, have all those good things. And that just, I guess, what started the journey was just my innocent and pure desire to do good, and to be open-hearted, and to be vulnerable, and to be open-minded. And then something really good just got abused. But it didn't break me. It didn't consume me. It didn't, with all the shit that I've been through. I'm a little bit surprised, that I made it. I'm a bit surprised that this didn't just cause me to hate God, or to cause me to be atheist, or to cause me to be vengeful or hurtful or anything like that against God or the belief of God. I still hung on to that. And I didn't kill myself, because many people, they do. That's what happens to them. When they get abused in the religious cult, when they get abused in the system, this is what they do. This is how they think that, because it hurts them intensely, and it makes them feel like crazy shame, down to the point where they can't talk about it. And I couldn't talk about it either. No one knew what I was going through. Nobody knew. And I think I'm gonna end the video right now because it's already over half an hour. Alright. I just need to calm down a bit. The next video, I'll probably talk about in great detail the abuse that I went through. And the subtle manipulation, the indoctrination, the ego that played a part in it, everything. my personal first-hand experience, not being manipulated by anybody else's pressure or agenda or anyone else's. This is my true and honest experience. Okay, that's all.